I'm actually getting some updates in. I'm still a little sick, but I'm not as sick as I was, so I can actually do some updates. I'm going to, in a minute, film my very late, very late February TBR. But I thought I'd tell you about some of the things I got in the mail, and I finished 2 books. I finished Waiting for the Flood by Alexis Hall. This was like a half and half for me. So this is 2 short stories put together. It takes place after Glitterland. The first short story is the title story, is Waiting for the Flood, and it is about Edwin. And Edwin lives in this old house. He is a book restorer. He loves his work. And he meets a gentleman who is helping shore up the neighborhood when a flood threatens them. And they strike up a relationship. It was very sweet. This was, of all the Alexis Hall that I have read, probably one of the most pretentious ones. It was okay. I still enjoyed it, but it was pretty bad. And I did see on a few other people's reviews that they also noticed that and didn't enjoy it. So mixed results. The second in this story, I think it was called like Chasing Lights or something like that. I really didn't like it. It is a me thing. I didn't like Marius. He was very bitter and very sarcastic and very biting, and he was cruel both to others and to himself. He took it out on himself in a form of like an eating disorder. It wasn't named, but it's very clear on page what's happening. And I just didn't like Marius because Marius, it was a little too familiar. When I'm at my worst, when I'm in my worst ways, that's a lot how I act. And it's not romantic, and it's not cool, and it was just troubling. This is one of those times when an unlikable character, while I always try to give them grace because I do enjoy unlikable characters, this one struck a little too close to home. So this story just didn't work for me. But Edwin's story did work. And I should say the 2 relate because Edwin and Marius, however you want to say his name, were married and divorced, and it is each of them finding their happily ever after. I ended up giving it like a 3.5 overall, the collection. I'm on the fence yet if I think it's like necessary for the series as a whole, because I haven't read the rest of the books, so I don't know if these characters come up in the other books. I don't think we saw any characters from Glitterland in this one, so I'm not sure. It may be the next book we see these guys again. So we'll see. And the other book that I finished was, here it is, I pushed through and finished Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. This one, I mentioned, it's very meaty, it's very dense, it's very thought-provoking. This is Robin talking about the earth and how we have treated it, and taking a look at it through an indigenous lens. The idea of the teaching of plants, of giving back, culture of gratitude, things like that. And this is kind of in line with the way I'm trying to approach things in my life and to raise my kid in line with. And that's the idea of gratitude, both to people and to the earth, and just less. We don't need a bunch of stuff. We should appreciate what we have, that sort of thing. And she really looked at it from a environmental lens. I ended up switching to the audiobook halfway through, but incorporating the audiobook. It helped to read through it because it was so dense. I've got it tabbed and annotated with thoughts and stuff. If this is the sort of nonfiction that can be up your street, I very, very much recommend it. However, it is heavy and it is dense, so if you're more of a casual nonfiction reader, this may not be the pick for you. I have seen 1 or 2 people do like an essay a day. That could really work. I actually intended to start out that way, but I'm just not built that way. I can't pick something up for a set amount of days unless I have like a checklist. My brain just, if I don't see it, it's not there, and I get caught up in everything else. So that is the 2 things I finished. I have a little bit of book mail. My husband actually bought me a cinnamon bun. I'm so happy. This is Cinnamon Bun by Raven's Dagger. I talked about this in my last wrap up. I adored this book. This is one of my happiest books I have ever read. It made me so tickled when I was reading it, and I cannot wait to read the next one. It's good. It's a lit RPG, wholesome, cozy book. If you want cozy, here you go. Pick this up. And my Barnes & Noble edition of Heart Song came in, so that is going to go over here. Yes, over there. I was about to say on that shelf, but they don't live there anymore. They live over there. You can see the red of Raven's song sticking out really good. So we'll go over there with those. I'm very happy about that. I also got my book of the month today. I skipped last month's. Nothing looked good to me, which seems to be the story of my life. When I resubscribe, they start putting more stuff in that I don't like anymore. But I didn't get any of the new stuff this month. I did get what do they call it? Reader favorites. So I got A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. I've heard a lot about this. A lot of people really love this. It's a fantasy about a man who returns to his home island to investigate girls and women going missing, and he ends up working with like the village, a village head or something. I can't remember the details, but I've heard many good things about it, and it has been on my radar since. And I picked up the infamous Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Actually, wait a freaking minute. I didn't realize this is the same author. Wow. All right. That just happened. I didn't realize it's the same author. So I got Divine Rivals too. So look at me. I got the Rebecca Ross box this month. I'm not going to summarize Divine Rivals. I feel like everybody's read it. But that's the first update. Short, sweet, to the point. Also, look. I got this book in the mail. It's so big. What is this? This looks amazing, by the way. I've been waiting for this to come back into print. I couldn't get a hold of it, and I got this in the mail. It's The Forgotten Moon by Brian Lee Durfee. What? Lord help me. What is this? Is this 1,000 pages? No. 780 pages. Wow. Okay, that's a lot. Yeah. Okay. Till next time. We're going with some natural lighting today, so I hope it's not too dark. I turned my light on, and it was like, hooey. So we're not doing that. Oh gosh, I can't get comfortable. It's one of those days. So, it's time for update. Probably should have done this Friday. It's now Monday. I have a few things to talk about with you. First off, let's get the DNF out of the way. I don't think I've talked about it. That is True Grit by Charles Portis. If you watched my TBR, I covered it a little bit there, but if not, that's fine. This wasn't for me. I was supposed to read this for my in real life book club with some friends, and I'm just, it's not my speed. I didn't like the writing style. I thought the characters were bland, and then the actual story itself, it wasn't for me. Mainly it was the writing style. In full transparency, it was mainly just the writing style. I really hated it. I really hated how choppy it was. I really hated a lot about it. So I thought, I know it's short and I can push through it, but I also have a lot of better things to do with my life. So that one was a DNF. I then hem-hawed around for a while because I couldn't really decide what I wanted to read, but I read the next two volumes of Power Rangers, so that is volume 7 and 8, and this concludes the arc with Drakon, who is evil Tommy, the Green Ranger from a different timeline, which, there's a lot of timey-wimey stuff going on, but this scene was pretty intense. So this kind of culminates in this big battle, and we get introduced to the idea of the morphing grid, where all the Power Rangers get their powers. If you didn't know, the Power Rangers, all the generations are connected. The different stories, you've got the Mighty Morphin, you've got the Ninja ones, you've got the Dino Force. They're all connected through the morphing grid. Different timelines, different dimensions, and this kind of explores that idea and how they're connected, and can they cross back and forth, do they communicate with each other, that sort of thing. And they all come together in this one to fight back against Drakon. And in this, you can see the different types of Rangers, some of them all together fighting. It's very cool. It was very awesome, to see everyone come together. And we get the first peaks of I forget what they call her, the Ranger Killer, the Ranger Hunter. She is, if I recall correctly, and I don't know much about her, she is the Pink Ranger from Draken's timeline. She is terrifying, but she turns good. If she hasn't stayed good, she's good for a while. I think I'm gonna find out. She is on the cover of the next volume, so I will get more of that. I'm a Pink Ranger stan. As a kid, I played Power Rangers every recess, and I was the Pink Ranger, naturally, because the best Ranger. So I'm very excited for that. So those were extremely great. I loved those. I am very excited to get the next couple of volumes, probably later this week. I then finished A Flame in the North by Lilith St. Crow. This is probably going to be one of my best books of the year. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. And I will also be very honest, and that is not the popular opinion. This has a low rating on Goodreads, and that's okay. It is a very dense, somewhat slow fantasy about a young woman who is called a vulva. That is not what it sounds like. It's a type of like sorceress, an elementalist for her people. This is a Norse-inspired fantasy. She has these tattoos that go up her arm to indicate, you know, her ranks, her powers, that sort of thing. And at a big gathering feast, her brother kills a man for something he has done, some small infraction. They get into a fight, sort of, and the guy dies. So her father, to avoid a clan war, trades her for a year and a day to this other clan. She will fulfill sort of that guy's role, take up that space that in an exchange for his life. I think that makes sense. It's called a weregild, I think was the word they used. So she sets off on this journey to the north with this clan. The peculiar thing about it was that when the clan arrived and they learned who her father was, and after this happened, they were very insistent that it was her and not her brother or her sister. We find out more about that as she goes. She and her shield maiden, because she is a powerful elementalist, she is very special. She has a shield maiden who is sworn to protect her. Shield maidens are young women who are taken by the Valkyrie and returned, and then they fight with the speed, the finesse, the ability of the Valkyries. They're very powerful. They're very awesome. They're very unique in this society. I loved Arn. That was her name. And Sol, the main character, I loved her too. They find out pretty fast that there's a lot more going on than they anticipated. I pitched this to my friends. I have been pitching it to them as a Lord of the Rings feeling Norse fantasy where almost everything is gender flipped. So our main character is a woman, and instead of being Frodo, it's like a Gandalf person. So she has, you know, the magic wizardy powers, and there is no ring. She is instead on a quest to find something that would kind of be considered a ring from what we can gather so far. And it has that dense writing style. So it's difficult to read, and a lot of people say the pacing is odd. And if you do not like journey books, this is the purest journey book I have read in a long time. They are literally journeying until this book ends. They stop in two places. They don't stay at them long, and they keep journeying. They're cold. They're going into a icy, frozen north. So if you don't like that sort of thing, you're probably not gonna like this. But I adored this with every fiber of my being. This was a 6-star. This is so far one of the only books that I'm almost certain will be on the best books of the year for me, and I cannot wait for the second book. It comes out in June, I think on my birthday, if not on it the week before. So I am 1000% continuing this series. Don't worry about it. I'll have more to say. So that was fantastic. And then I followed it up with, where did it go? Here it is. The third Criminal Intentions book, The Man with the Glass Eye. This was also fantastic. I started picking this. I picked this up as an audiobook, actually. I am trying very hard to use audiobooks more often. I am historically very bad at audiobooks. My brain just doesn't work that way very well. I don't get a lot of time to listen to audiobooks, so I have to do shorter books, and this is perfect. I've also discovered contemporary things, so like this stuff, and romances work okay for me. It takes less of my attention. I have to be physically doing something to listen to an audiobook. I have to be busy, and I can't just sit and listen. So this is good because I could do things and still manage to retain information. So I listened to this on audio. Loved the audio for this. Loved the narrator. His voices are fantastic. This one follows Malcolm and Song Yoon, I think is how it's said. I hope I'm saying that right. I listened to an 8-hour audiobook and I can't remember. I'm terrible. They are investigating the murder of I think he was a heroin addict at the beginning. He is killed execution style. And we find out there's much more to that going on. And at the end of this, we get a lot of hints and scenes that's giving us like the meta plot, where I'm starting to see like the big plot through. Sade comes back and they are my favorite character. I love them. And I am so concerned about what's going on with visiting family. What are you doing, Sade? So I have the 4th audiobook of this already. And I'm going to actually, once I finish filming, it's on this shelf somewhere, I'm going to pull the physical copy off and put it on my cart, because as soon as I finish the Bergman Brothers that I'm listening to, that's the next thing that I'm going to listen to. Love this series. If you haven't picked it up and you are at all interested, almost smacked myself in a, like, how do I pitch this? This is a queer, people of color, police procedural where they solve like a mystery of the week, but it all connects into a overarching plot line. There are seasons and each book is an episode. I am only a little bit into this, but there are currently I think 3 seasons right now, so there's a lot to read. They're all pretty short and it's all indie, so you can pick these up on Amazon. And Cole McCade also has the audiobooks, as I mentioned, so please, if you're interested at all, these are fantastic. I adore them. Pick them up. It's a slow burn romance too, so if you love slow burn romances, that's gonna be, you're gonna love it. I don't know many people who I've recommended that to who haven't loved it. I read 1 more book that I liked and 2 I didn't. So the one that I liked was I Think I Might Need You by Christina C. Jones, and this is about Joa and Teddy. And Joa is a fitness guru online, and she finds out very early in the beginning of this novella that she is pregnant. Unexpectedly so. She didn't expect to get pregnant. And so she is grappling with that. I was fully prepared to not enjoy this because at the beginning, when she finds out she's pregnant, she has a very bad attitude about it. But she checks herself. There is an event in which she sees a family member who is also pregnant, and she is reminded that she is pregnant, but some people very much struggle with that. Some people have a hard time getting pregnant, experience losses, or just infertility, and she checks herself and thinks, I should be happy about this. This is something I wanted. I just didn't plan for it this early, and it's okay to be upset, but I need to have a better attitude. And that was the turning point at which I was like, I love this already. So like, that was great for me. That was fantastic. This is also a second chance romance. Teddy and Joa dated in, I think I'm saying her name right, dated in college, and I think it was either college or high school. He kind of disrespected her really badly at that time, and they broke up, and she's kind of been, not anti-Teddy, but like, you know, he disrespected her. She's not going to stand for that. And they have overlapping spheres. He's also an influencer, but more of like the funny haha kind. So they cross paths occasionally, and this is finally his chance to make it up to her, and a second chance romance happens. It's very sweet. I really liked it. If the third one, which I already have, is as good as the first 2 are, I'm gonna buy the paperback bind-up of these, I think, because I really enjoy them. They're very good. If you like short romance novellas, these are fantastic. Christina C. Jones has not missed for me yet. I have liked everything I have read for her. Now, for the 2 books I did like, I'm gonna go with The Stars Undying by Emery Lord first, because I just don't have any strong feelings on it. I didn't enjoy the reading process for this one. I was disconnected and just, it was boring. That's it. This is a Julius Caesar and Cleopatra inspired space opera about a young woman whose sister usurps her throne from her twin sister. She flees, and then she makes her way back to the planet, a la Cleopatra, in a carpet to ask for this other general's help who is from a visiting empire. It was okay. So a big what's the word I want? A big hinge of this story, like a big important part, is that these two characters very much are supposed to be in love. In fact, the second half of the book, it's like she's really crazy about him. But the minute they meet, it's one of those things where like within 15 minutes of meeting, they've had sex on the floor and they're in love. And I read a lot of romance and I wouldn't buy that in those books. So I didn't buy it here. The narrative style is also not strong for me. It's very disconnected. Parts of the book are told from her retrospective back on her life, and other parts of the book are told from his point of view, not retrospective, because this is Cleopatra and Julius Caesar. You can assume what's going to happen. So it felt a little disconnected. I say little. It felt a lot of disconnected, and I didn't pick up on any of it. I couldn't get on board. So this was like a 2.5, 3 stars. A lot of people really love it. It seemed like the reviews are split. You either love it or you hate it. That's okay. That's kind of how Flame in the North is. A lot of people didn't like it, but the people who do like it seem to really love it. So this one just missed for me, and that's alright. They don't all have to hit. Now the book that I actively didn't like, getting a lot of these this beginning of this year, and I'm super disappointed on this one, is Made to Love by Alexandria House. I was very excited for this. I loved the previous book to this, but this one, no. This relationship was bad news. Not good. So this is the story of Trivia and Niles. Niles is a spoken word poet. He performs at clubs, and Trivia meets him after going to a club her sister owns. She's had a very messy breakup with a very crappy ex, and she becomes somewhat obsessed with him. Low-key stalks him, and they strike up this relationship. He instantly falls in love with her from the stage. It's very strong insta-love vibes, which is fine. But this relationship is fraught with some real intense jealousy, like unhealthy levels of jealousy. There is some emotional manipulation at a couple points in this that really bothered me. And the thing that finally killed it for me is towards the end of the book, there is a scene at which these 3 friends the series is based off of are talking, and one of the girls mentions that her and her boyfriend broke up, and the other girls point out that he had a black eye and a busted lip. She says, yeah, I beat him. She punched him several times, evidently, at least twice, to injure him. They laugh about it and say, are you trying to get arrested? She goes, no, he won't press charges. And I found that very uncomfortable. If this had been 3 dudes talking about one of them beating his girlfriend when she broke up with him, this wouldn't have been funny. This would have been police should have been involved, and this is police should have been involved. I was very uncomfortable with that scene. Did not like that scene. And it's not even that he broke up with her because he was cheating. He had unresolved issues with his ex. He broke up the relationship, and she hit him. And that's not cool. That's not good. We shouldn't be hitting people. I feel like that should be an easy statement to make. So, didn't like this. I think I ended up giving it like a 1.5 because I did finish it out, but I will not finish the rest of these books. The 3rd book is about that particular friend, the one that beat her ex-boyfriend. So I'm done with this series. I will try another Alexandria House, maybe one a little more current because this is an older book of hers. I think I've actually read some before this and I liked them, so I will try another one. But if I encounter more of this, I probably won't. She's probably just not an author for me. I'm not about that. That's not cool for me. I don't like reading about it. So that is it. I'm hoping at least I'll have at least one more update for y'all this week. We shall see. I'm gonna go upstairs and edit a video and then work on painting the hall. I am slowly painting the hallway, right here that leads down here to this library, and I eventually have to paint that door. So I will work on painting that. Oh, sorry, you're crooked. This week, so I don't know how much reading I'm gonna get done because I'm gonna be painting a lot. I'm painting trim right now. We'll see. If not, that's okay. I'll film an outro for y'all. But if I see you again, I'll see you again. It's me. I'm back. I have an update. It's the 14th, so like 2 days after my last update. Today is a migraine day, but I have finished 2 books. I have been painting the house, and the way I do big projects like that is I do it in small parts. So I'll paint a little one day, I let it sit for a few days, paint it the next day, because I do it by myself, and I do it when I have time. I don't really have the capability to carve out big chunks of time for it, so I squeeze it in. But yesterday, my internet and power went out at different times even. So I had several hours and I was able to paint. So I finished Always Only You by Chloe Leese. I had this on audio, and so I listened to this on audio. I read the last like 20 pages last night after my daughter went to sleep, and I really, really enjoyed this. There were some things I didn't love, like the abundance of times we had to talk about her Harry Potter underwear and its state of dampness. And there was a few places where it felt like a plot point was getting picked up. There was going to be a conflict of some sort, or something was going to happen, and then nothing ever happened. It was a little strange. It felt like there were a lot of loose, like, plot threads just dangling in this one, but I did still really like it. I adore cinnamon roll heroes, and that is exactly what Ren is. This is, I should explain, the second book in the Bergman brothers, and this follows Ren, Soren. His brother is Ryder from the first book, and he is a hockey player, and Frankie is his love interest. She is a social media manager for the hockey team that he plays on. She is known as Frankie the Grump. She has autism and arthritis. That's why she walks with a cane. And it's about their co-workers to friends to lovers relationship. But yes, very sweet. I enjoyed it. The audiobook was fantastic. I will probably continue to read these on audiobook. I think I'm going to take a break from audiobooks after this for a little bit. Might pick up, the next one I'm probably going to pick up is the next Criminal Intentions, but then I'll pick up likely the next one of these because I know it's good. So I finished that. And I also finished Red Sight by Meredith Morin. And you know, this one didn't make sense. So this is about Corinne, who is the weakest red sister red witch in history, in a long time, in her order. This world is divided up into orders. This is a science fiction novel. Science fantasy is what I would call it. Actually, I would just call it straight fantasy, in which mankind is in space, and we use red witches to navigate, or we can use red witches to navigate spaceships in space. They use, it's kind of like the Force, but they call it Tactus, to pull ships through space. The matter around the ship is how I understand that. And Corinne is one of these red witches. She is supposedly exceptionally weak and has no aspirations besides living on this giant ship that breeds these witches and tending to the gardens. Of course, things don't go from there, and she is suddenly thrust into the spotlight. She gains a bunch of power abruptly, and we have 2 other points of views. We have Sarah, who is a white witch. She is like a judge. She is a follower of the goddess, she's Solus, I think was her name, or is that the name of the planet? The Radiance Order. The red witches are a follower of one goddess. There's a white goddess and a black goddess. The black goddess was supposedly like evil, and she was wiped out, and then these 2 manage sort of the world. Anyway, the writing on this was fantastic. I really liked it. It was very readable. It was very fast-paced, and at first that was fine. But then this book does a weird thing where it is pitched almost as science fiction, but this is a straight up fantasy, but it still attempts to be science fiction, and it's not even great at being a fantasy. There is a lot of telling, not showing. We're told a lot of things happen, we're not shown that they happen, and the world just doesn't make a lot of sense. We're expected to just accept these wild things that happen with little to no explanation, and while sometimes that will work in a fantasy book, it just didn't work. one character is, and this is no big spoiler, a star eater, and she can literally eat planets, but we're really not given a clear description of how that happens, just that she walks out of her starship, transforms, and eats a planet. And it's like, what? Like, no, hold on, I need more than that. Also, I really disliked the Red Witch Order. One of the initiation processes, which they did clarify was an evil and incorrect process to have, was that they had to kill young novices that were weak in power, that were pre-picked to become actual priestesses. So once you are 13, you are picked to survive or die, and the 19 to 20-year-olds that are getting ready to ascend to priesthood have to kill those that don't in their sleep. And so our main character does this, and then she's sad about it for a while, but then it kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit. It was very uncomfortable. I didn't like that. And we are expected to believe that these red witches that are churned out of a vat of recycled witches, like once you die, you are put back into the ship and the ship poops out a baby. So these are recycled beings. They are each individual and distinct in their own ways, and somehow they have made this unexpectedly strong witch in Corinne, and it's like, it doesn't make a lot of sense, especially when that resource is limited, and it's like, but she would have, anyway. I had a lot of trouble with the logic. The internal logic in this just did not logic, and it didn't even logic in a fantasy logic. So it didn't make sense. I was left very confused the whole time. I finished it, but I just finished it scratching my head going, what? That's not how that works. That's not how any of this works. So it's like a 2.5, a 3. Again, I really liked the writing. I liked the setup, but just the execution really bewildering. It also really, this is a big annoyance for me. It does the thing where there is a sapphic relationship, but the sapphic relationship is Corinne, who's 20, and a millennia-old priestess who is appearance-wise in her 20s, but she is like super old, millennia old. She was around when these goddesses, these people worship old, and yet she picks Corinne. It's troubling. It's troubling. That's troubling. Yeah, makes me uncomfortable. So I can't say I recommend it. I mean, maybe you could check it out from your library, give it a shot, but it was weird. It didn't make a lot of sense. I will probably check out something else that Meredith Morning writes. I would like to see where she develops. I think with a good editor, I think with a lot of practice, she could be a fantastic writer, but this one didn't work well for me. Oh well. I am currently still reading The Death Pact by Alex Gilbert, and I haven't really started anything else. I finished those 2 books yesterday, and I'm getting migraines, so I'm kind of in between books at the moment. Probably gonna go upstairs, do a little bit of editing, and I'm gonna be honest, play some video games and sit in the dark. So we'll see. I will update you guys in the next February reads on what I read. I will likely pick up the Inked in Blood and the Books of Ilren next, because those are my 2 next arcs on my list. And I think that's it for this update. Sorry for the low energy ending, but what can you do? Oh, I will say I did get my copy of A Flame in the North by Lilith St. Crow, which I adored, and I talked about earlier in this video. This is so good. It felt so much longer while I was reading it because she packs so much into this. I love this. It's gonna find a home on this shelf behind me. And I did also get the Mimicking of, not the Mimicking of No Successes, an Imposition of Unnecessary Obstacles by Michael Older, which I also read recently and really enjoyed. So that's it. Thanks so much for watching, y'all. Let me know down below, have you read any of these? Do you plan on reading them? And I will talk to you guys again soon. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you then. Bye, y'all.